start. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Center for Leadership, the podcast where leadership begins at the center, you. I am Karie, your host, and I believe that in order to lead others effectively, we must first learn to lead ourselves. This segment is called Beyond the Title, where we have conversations to explore the raw, unscripted, behind the scenes stories of people discovering how to turn their passion into purpose. They will share practices, insights, and tools that will help you stay centered, resilient, and ready to empower those in your care. Leadership isn't just a role, it's a choice, and it starts with showing up for yourself. So let's dive in. Yay!
Yes.
Hello, Jen, and welcome to this podcast. I am so excited to have you here and to talk about the work that you do, because I don't know that any other guest that I have has fit into that open description more than you do. But welcome.
Thank you, Karie. We always have our best conversations while moving, in the car, while walking. And so I just love the invitation to be in this open space just to see how life flows for us today.
Yes, yes. So I met Jen a couple of years ago at a conference, or a common person, a friend of both of ours, Dave Clausen, had come
Hey,
up to me and
Dave.
goes, "Yes, Dave, you need to meet Jen." And there she goes. And I literally followed you out into the hallway and chased you down and connected. And I was like, "I'm Karie, and Dave says we need to talk." And I think immediately there was just this energy and spark between us that just has launched an amazing friendship. And like I said, I really love having those conversations, those deep conversations with you, whether we're in person or we're driving or whatever it is. It's just you're a place that has been an easy comfort for me to fall into. So before we get into all of that, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody else: is what lights your fire? What gets Jen excited about life?
Oh, wow. Well, I think how I'm going to answer it is the same thing I felt when we first met, and that's that I could just be myself.
Yeah.
And that we could talk about a breadth of topics from a grounded perspective. And for me, it really comes down to the science and the spirit. And
Mm.
when those two intersect, I feel most alive and talk about what's real, not just the bubbly things that are awesome, but really what's going well, building from our successes, and then talking about the challenges and leaning on the wisdom from one another, other shared experiences, and just being real with that.
Yeah, I love that you just said that, because I think that was for me once I understood who you were and what in the work that you did. I was just immediately fascinated, because I I've always kind of felt like this tug between spirituality and then science, right? Like factual, what's real versus like this spiritual side. And I know that society tells us that one is like concrete and one is fluffy, right? It's just this kind of this
Yeah,
weird
separate.
thing.
Yes.
And one of the things that I loved was that as we were first talking, and we were talking about mindfulness, and we were talking about self-care, and we were talking about resiliency, that your approach with it was from a science perspective, right? And it came into this science, the science that backs it up, and really about the body and the nervous system. But there's this amazing spirituality that goes along with it, that just is this amazing intersection. So tell us a little bit about that.
I'd like to bring it back to what you said about leading from the center, right? And I think that that's the center, the core, the essence. To me, that's the embodiment of the whole self, that
Yeah.
to know thyself and to do the hard work that um, of reflection, of introspection. It is physical, it's multidimensional, right? We are not one note beings. So we are physical, emotional, energetic, mental. We have this beautiful intellect and wisdom, and we have the spiritual aspect. And that when we can have the whole self online, for me, it's been my lived and learned experience that life is just easier. And then we can show up more authentically. We can show up in spaces like this or at the grocery store or wherever from our whole self rather than the wounded parts that tend to be more prickly and get more signal and can get more play just because it's the edges are harder and therefore they stand out or and we respond from those parts. But when we have a sense of what our triggers are, our bliss spots, our whole human, then we can lean on that beautiful big picture.
Mm. Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned in this last couple of years, both about myself, both through my coach, but then the conversations that you and I have had, and again, being able to be raw and authentic with each other, and because life doesn't isn't always great, right? We might know what to do, but it doesn't mean that it always works in our favor, and so sometimes we in ourselves are always kind of that checking, and I just love the deep questions that, if I'm sharing something that I'm really struggling with, the deep questions that you're asking me to kind of help find where that's coming from. And in that habit of having that conversation with you, I find myself asking those same questions when I'm alone, right? So when something happens and it's I'm really like it really kind of throws me off guard and it's really taking my energy in a very negative space, that it's kind of like, okay, take a moment and breathe, and where is this coming from? And then is this something that I need to hold on to right now, or is it something I need to respond to? What is it? And then what is it even doing to my body by chasing that?
Yeah.
And that's something that's been new for me too, is thinking about the impact that it has on my body when I'm moving in that direction.
And to take that moment, right? That's what I hear you say, and that is to take a moment,
Mm-hmm.
to breathe, to have that pause, to be reflective, because it's so easy to put our energy towards the task list or the parents, aging parents, kids, anything else, right? Just keep going. And I know that you and I both have had that experience too of just
Yes.
of the race, the rat race, and that go, 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 and that hustle. We're hustlers, but it's a different it's it has rhythm now. And I
Mm,
appreciate that it's less hustle, more flow.
mm. Yeah, I like that. I like the rhythm, right? I like the how you said that. And I think I recognize I didn't recognize before uh just how easily I would follow something that wasn't serving, right? So
Mm.
triggered, or what, something that made me angry, that I was responding to, like I was following an emotion down a rabbit hole. And how that, in that moment there might be something that someone said, or something I saw on, media that, immediately made me angry, and not bringing myself back down to center, how I continually respond at that level in every conversation or interaction that I have from that point forward. Like that's real. And it was happening and I didn't even recognize the feeling that I carry when I was responding in that space.
Hmm. Can if you could describe the feeling now that you can have a little space from it and look back.
Yeah. I the first place that I always feel it is my shoulders,
Yeah.
and I've shared this if I've ever had a conversation with any of you about stress, and um for me it's always been in my shoulders, and I remember now having this, oh, I just carry stress on my shoulders, or my shoulders always hurt, or when
Carry it. You
I
carry it.
carry it.
Yes.
I
Yes.
carry it. And it became this thing where that's just the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
So my shoulders are just always going to hurt because I'm always going to be carrying this, and so was everybody else. So this is just for me how it shows up.
Quote
And then
normal. Yes.
normal,
Yeah.
right? And then now like living life where it's like, oh, no, I don't have that. I don't have that anymore. I don't have that tense and that feeling that just like starts at your shoulders and starts going up your head and then starts going down your back. And then every muscle in your body is just super tense. And I almost think
Mhm.
about it as when I was in high school, I had a thyroid problem and I didn't know about it. So my body was always cold. And so most of the year I was just walking around. Like when you get really cold and your just body is
Oh,
just, you're trying to hold that to shiver to keep yourself
Northern
warm.
Iowa cold.
Northern Iowa.
Yes.
Yeah, if you
To the
live up
bone.
north, you know that feeling, right? But I think that to describe it is like that's how it felt all of the time to some degree. And then to be able to come back into that center was just like that. And now I feel it. I feel it coming on and I can pull back before it gets to the point where I'm walking around like this all the time.
Yes. What a difference, a softness.
Yes.
Just to embody that softness and to even recognize when it feels different, when that's starting to come on and or that reaction, that response is starting to come on is for me has been so empowering. And I see that for my clients too. It's just that we have choice now. It's not just happening to us. It's not,
Right.
you're just swept away and the drama of this or that or the other thing. It's just we have choice how to engage and
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. One of the things I pulled out your workbook that we had gone and worked through at our youth session, and just reading through some of my notes too to remember um, some ahas for me. And one of the post-it notes that I put in here is that stress is a demand on your energy.
Oh,
And
so good.
yeah, and just thinking about that, right? We have so much time. We have so much energy that we can put into the things that we're doing. Um, and I even think about this as I'm getting older, right? Sometimes some things take a little bit more energy than maybe that they used to. And like, where do you want to spend your time? It's that same question. It's like, where do you want to spend your energy?
Yes.
And do I
Yes.
really want to spend it in this stressed out mode? Or do I want to save that energy for things that are bringing me joy?
To recognize that there's even a choice.
Yeah.
And then portable tools to help us move through just that whole self centeredness, the whole self, some people call it grounded, but I love the word that you use, center. It's just the back to center. Um, so that we can remember that we have choice, but also we know what to do with the moment, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. We just know what to do. We have
You
more
know what to do.
awareness and agency and skillfulness and to take those tools to the road, take
Mm,
it to life instead
mm,
of that everyday resilience, instead of just something that we practice after 5 p.m. or on Saturdays and Sundays. I hear you say that it's just recognizing the energy of the day to day and
yeah.
approaching it from a different lifestyle perspective.
And the things that I can do to set myself up for moving my energy in the space that I want to. I think that's for me, whether you call it routine or ritual or whatever it is, preventative measures and how I schedule my day, by how I start my day, by how I end my day, by how I feel my body during the day. And one of the things that you and I really, really love is movement,
Yes.
and nature. And I love, for those of you who don't know Jen and I, whenever we are together, we find space to be together, usually somewhere in nature, right? That
Yes.
there's some sort of movement or nature or something that is a space for us just to kind of let go and to take in. And I love that you incorporate movement into your coaching sessions and nature. So tell us a little bit about that and how that works.
Well, if I could take everyone to the river like you and
Yeah.
I would, but not quite there yet, inching my way session by session. I've owned a gym facility. I co-owned it for 10 years and um, just a year ago and turned that over to one of our trainers. And so I still use the space in the winter time, but I love outside as my workspace. And so when I show up to this local park, and there are about 3 parks that I use around the Cincinnati metro area, but there's one in particular that I've been going to for 15 years. And I show up and I just kind of take a look around. I'm like, oh, back in the office, kind of one of those stretching the arms and kind of pinch me, is this real kind of moments. Because I've worked, I was just sharing with one of my clients this morning that one of my offices in Dayton, Ohio, right, Patterson Air Force Base, my first office was in this classified vault with no windows. And I had like one of those sad lights, that helps with the seasonal affective disorder.
Yes.
And was wondering what was wrong with me. It's like, actually, she's deprived of nature.
Right,
So
right.
I broke out
Yes.
of that, thankfully. But here in 2025, being outside, it's just nature's healing. It's the science of nature, for the energetics, the electromagnetic force, just it holds us all. And it's supremely healing from the science perspective and aligning with my clients that also respect nature. And whether they just like to walk in it, be in it, appreciate trees or water, it's just a real grounding, centering, relaxing place where we can practice our ABCs, our real-time resilience ritual. And it's less effortful
Mm,
just to be held in that space. And everyone is a little different. I have one
mhm.
client that working with her, she shared her love of baseball. I think I
Yes.
mentioned her to you that she shared her love of baseball and she was going through a big life transition and where she was a caregiver to everyone, aging parents, children, spouse, everyone. And she was ready to turn some of that love on herself, just didn't know how. She didn't realize she had neglected that self-care from that
Mhm.
perspective for so long. And what do I even like, right? We were in that
Yeah.
part of life where now that I've all of this, I'm an empty nester, everything is complete in that regard. Who am I? What do I even like? And she had shared that she loved baseball so much. And so we kind of got into the energetics of at bat, being at bat, and we talked about taking a batter stance. She's like, I'm ready to stand up for myself. Everything okay?
All right, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something happened with my headphones.
Oh no.
So we're gonna
You
take
want to
those
try
off.
again? Okay.
All right. So I'm hoping everybody else could hear you because I lost your sound for a minute, but go back and just
Uh,
in case.
where would it be helpful for me to
Just kind of your thought about her love for baseball, and then how you moved into your session with her using that.
yes. So when she shared her love for baseball and really going into bat for herself and knowing that she loved baseball, she's like, I'm ready to go to bat for myself. Like, okay, well, it's time for us. And I was in softball season at this time as a
Yeah.
coach mom. And it's like, well, what is it? So we stood up and I said, how would you approach the batter's box? And so she did it. She took the stance. And, if you can imagine, maybe even get your feet like set up in the batter's box and then, that bat in hand. And as she cocked the bat back, I asked her if she wanted to swing through. She's like, oh, yes. And so she did that. And she was ready to just move that energy and to
Mhm.
complete the action, swing all the way through, right? She had a really great swing, by the way, but I was not there to critique the swing, but she did. She was in her zone. And I asked her, like, what does it mean how did it feel to be set up and to go to bat for yourself? And she said, my feet are squarely planted on the ground.
Yeah.
I can see what's coming at me. I
Mm.
feel strong. I have the right tools. I'm resourced. I'm like, okay, this is it. We are going to pull this thread. And so that was kind of our coming together, setting the plan for our her personalized nervous system resilience journey. That was our setting the plan session. So on our first session, I brought two gloves and a ball, and we just started throwing a little bit and getting it back to like, so what does this mean for showing up and going to bat for yourself? Just what she needed. It was very clear that she needed her presence, her own personal presence, so she could see, so she could hear what was being said and really be with what is, rather than projecting out into the future and trying to figure 1,000 things out, which kept her stuck and frozen and doing nothing. So she was
Yeah.
ready to take action. So we threw for a bit, and yeah, that's one example.
I love that you pay attention to that, right? And to know, I think one of the things that I talk about when we're training and we're in is really the environment that you're in, right? The room that you walk into, like you said, being in Dayton on an Air Force base, the vibe that that sent to you versus being out on a park is very different, and it matters. We can work in those spaces. We can force ourselves to work into those spaces and be productive and do good things. But there is something to be said about how that environment changes the way that we approach and interact and invite in
Yeah.
other things. And to be able to think about what does she need in that moment to be able to be authentic and to be comfortable and be able to share and work through um, ready for her next steps. I think the fact that you pay attention to that, and one, because you understand the science of how that even works, but it is, I think, for all of us, regardless of what we do for work, whether we're a coach or we're a leader, but paying attention to that environment and the things that we're setting and how we're inviting people in is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. And that space,
Yes.
said space a couple times, and space is the inner space, the outer space. And the reality is when the outer space is the external space is chaotic, our inner space really, it's easy for our inner space to reflect that.
Mm.
It was my experience in the skiff in the basement of no window basement, my old career. And still, when the outside environment is scary or uncertain or unpredictable, there are these nervous system based tools that we in whole self returning, centering that we can lean on to create an inner space that still feels resourced and ready. And what I've found, what we found, and what science confirms, thank you, is
Yes.
that our perspective, our perception of what's going on around us just shifts. We don't get wrapped up in it. Um, it doesn't get so confusing. We have a little bit of space, safety, predictability, and control, because who doesn't like a good acronym? But a little
Yes.
safety, predictability, and control of our environment so that we can really see what's in front of us, have that perspective.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It just kind of makes me think about different scenarios in my life
Mm,
um, where I felt where I felt safety, right? Where there was things that I was really showing up and felt like I was in the right space, and maybe places where I wasn't, and really what was missing or different in some of
mm,
those areas. And I think, like you talk about, I think a lot of it is energy and being able to also understand that space within us, right? So I can't always control the space around me, the outer space.
yeah.
And in that time, it's so important that I'm able to create the space within me.
Yes. Yes. And maybe even then we can realize just that we have a little bit of that control within
Yeah.
and see what that control or that connection really to what does bring us joy, what does create that sense of safety. And then I feel like then we can put our votes there. We can put our energy there. We can put our attention to nourish those relationship, business, personal, otherwise. And because we just know how we feel. And that's something that, um, as a leader, to know how you feel, to have a sense of your head and your heart has just been changed the way that to have both. It doesn't need to be one, don't need to be all brain or all emotion. It's actually whole human here. Um, Ready to do the whole work, the empathy driven leadership work, and create those spaces where people co-create those spaces where people can be more authentically themselves too, and to show up like what in those spaces, how do you know, like what are your signals, your cues of like, oh, this is good, I like this.
I, yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, it's now again knowing what my body feels,
Yeah.
knowing, like my shoulders are dropped, that my head kind of feels light, like there isn't just this, um that I'm able to lean in, right?
Mm.
Rather than necessarily pulling back or trying to put a barrier between me and something else that's going on.
Isn't that amazing? Almost like your body knows.
Yeah,
The body knows, right? The somatic nervous system knows before our cognition picks up with it, like pulling back,
pulling back.
putting up a wall versus leaning in and
Mhm.
just sort of steady presence. So those are amazing cues to know about oneself.
I think what's really cool about, the work that you do as well is that I've seen you and heard uh your stories about people that you've worked with, right? So whether it's a one-on-one client or whether it's, a group of people, that it really focuses on that center and that stress resilience, but then understanding again and kind of marrying in that science around what it does, like long-term effects on your physical body
Mm,
over time, if we're not really paying attention to,
yeah,
how we need to create that center, that safe space in us. So, I mean, you've
yeah,
worked with professional athletes. You've worked with first responders. You've
yeah.
worked in, the substance abuse treatment and prevention space, right? So all of these people, when you talk about your work and you think about the different groups that you work with, what is common? What's the common thread between all of those? And then maybe what are some unique things, that you've experienced by working with different groups?
The common thread is that we all have a nervous system. We all have, I mean, to be silly about it, we all have a spine, we all have a nervous system, and we are all reacting and responding to every little thing that's going on. And it was you, Karie, that shared that tidbit of science when you brought me in to really learn how to hold facilitated and guide facilitated conversations through the top method, the FAIR method, and it it's that amazing data point of 20 million inputs, energy, right?
Yeah.
20 million signals that the brain is factoring every second, and that we only can really pluck and distinguish 40.
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Or is it
Yeah.
40 million and 20?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot to a
A
very
lot to none.
right. And then how easy it is to get overwhelmed or just um, I could go down that road, but I think what I want to bring it back to is that we all have a nervous system that we're all responding to energy and the more that I talk with people and just be my authentic self, a lot of people have a lot of experiences, spiritual experiences, energetic experiences, experiences with their intuition, their knowingness that is something other than here, right? That's something other than their brain thinking and cogitating it through. It's just there's a knowingness that they either listened to or they didn't and they overrode it. And the impact of that, we all have these stress triggers, and to map the triggers is really important. And there's a lot of, part of my work is stress mapping. And at the same time, we're building up our resilience factors and mapping those too, of what it does to shift our energy so we have a sense of we can map the tension, like you said, his shoulders, but also we can map the resilience of what happens when I take that 5 minute stretch in between the marathon of emails or whatever it might be. And so I think that the thread that I see across all the different responders is I love working in chaos. It's just I've kind of been born and thrive in it. I think many people can relate to that. That can see your way through it. So just being able to work in a high stakes environment, or just as a small business owner, just the nonstop aspect of it, of building and creating is awesome. And it also takes a toll when we are just going and going, that we need to learn how to restore ourselves. And the people that are willing to be counterculture, the people that are willing, either because they've had a burnout experience, an uncomfortable experience, or an injury or disease, whatever it is. We might know that sooner, but anyone that's had that experience of not being able to do the thing that we thought our worth was built on, aha, the high achievers, overachievers, the go-getters, and when all of a sudden we can't do that, where do we find our worth from? And so enter the spiritual question of who am I, and just our belonging, our being, and really supporting not only the rest and restoration, but also just the sense of human doing and human being.
Mm. Yeah, I love that, because I think when we think about doing the work and relieving the stress and creating those healthy boundaries and being in burnout recovery, there is this sense of, for me, it's almost like a sense of loss, like you said, like a loss of identity, because I've been, that's how I was raised, or that's the expectation that was put on me, or past relationships, whatever it is, right? That there was something that it was like that created my identity, or that's where I got validation for who I am, right? Or validation for the work that I was doing. And then there's almost this fear of taking that away, because then what does that really mean?
Mm, mm,
And
good.
so I love that this is like where that intersection of spirituality, faith, God, whatever it is, to you comes in, and now is really being able to say, like, at your center, at your core, who are you? And regardless of what is happening in this outside realm, right, there's always this is always the person, the thing that we turn to lift us and get us through. And
Mm.
again, like, I don't know, when you say it, it's like, well, duh, why wouldn't we?
Right, right.
But why hasn't it already being done?
Uh-huh. Why have I experienced burnout 4 times, right? I've changed many of the factors and realized that the nervous system cycle was still boom or bust.
Yeah.
And that's that society definitely conditions us towards producing and achieving, plus coming from a family of origin with a strong work ethic, Midwestern ethics, and just,
Mhm.
just many of us have that sense of, as small business owners, leaders, of work ethic. And how do we uncouple it from worth? Is such a powerful question. And yeah, I'm thinking of this lieutenant commander that I work with when he came back from Afghanistan. He had a physical ailment where his body was not functioning the same, very much stress related. And I'll leave the details at that, just to say that typically, whether it's an athlete or a commander or a small business owner, or, whomever, it's just that when we respect our rhythms and able to downshift, to drop it into gear and really go is fantastic. But also, how can we drop it and slow down without collapsing? And that's the question that I had to ask for myself, because for the longest time, it was synthetically driven. You had substance to slow you down, you had a substance to speed you up. And how sustainable was that? It wasn't. So, but yeah.
Which I think goes right into the work that you and I have both had a lot of experience with substance use, whether prevention, treatment, recovery, whatever that looks like, or whatever people have been had an experience with.
Hmm.
But it is almost that human nature that we live in a culture that is go 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 go, and there isn't this focus on individual spirituality, the internal needs. And like I said, when those things go away, or we can't find that balance, a lot of times it's moving to a substance that's going to help us do one or the other, or help us swing where we really need to go, rather than that self-regulation, resiliency, understanding of really what's happening
Hmm.
before it happens.
Hmm. that, and as you share that understanding, one of the understandings of just learning from everything. That's
Mhm.
I sometimes that, you know, I hear myself criticizing myself, like, oh, you make everything so deep. And it's like, well, it is. It's a learning opportunity, right? Otherwise, I'm going to experience it again until I get it. But what I'm thinking of is when I give keynotes or when I give presentations or trainings, prevention training, treatment or recovery groups, or all three, I talk about substances from the nervous system lens and to remove rather, the stigma of it's just an energy, right?
Mhm.
It's just an energy. It's an energy that gives energy. It's a substance that gives energy. It's a substance that slows down the energy or a substance that removes pain.
Mhm.
And that's when I typically give the audience a moment and say, all right, let's breathe. Because there, I mean, we want to reduce stigma, mental health, and addiction, substance use. And I find that the science and neuroscience is supremely helpful for understanding to reduce the stigma and also bringing in the energetics and the nervous system of, oh, the person was looking to function. The person was trying to move their nervous system into a place where they said internally, I can. The story internally is like, oh, when I do this, then I can. Now,
Mhm.
that's what we need to uncouple and right size and work with. But that's often one of my favorite exercises working in treatment recovery centers. I've been working with the Joseph House. Shout out to the Joseph House of
Yeah.
veterans experiencing homelessness and substance use. So we talk about like, what did you get from that? What were the perceived benefits of living this way in this lifestyle with this substance? Because we try to like push it away and be like, oh, I don't need it anymore. It's actually, well, what did our nervous system appreciate about this substance? And we bow to that, like, oh, okay. But it wasn't the substance that I was after. It was the ability to speak my mind, to have
Mhm.
energy, to
Mhm.
be aligned, to not give a bleep, you know, it was whatever it was. And that
I
is
It's so
light.
true because we do it because it works,
Right. Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
so whether it's using a substance or running marathons or being a Karen in a grocery store, right? Like it's that energy
Yeah.
that, and especially when we think about I guess as I'm kind of putting this all together too, is that we're always trying to control the outside energy, the outside, environment. And so we're trying, rather than finding the inside environment, we're trying to find those things to help move us through that. And what I love, again, what I love about your work is that it continues to come back to, let's bring the science and the spirituality here. Let's bring it here where we know that we understand and acknowledge those things, but also find who we are and what's going to work for us in
Oh,
that individuality.
in the individuality that is so core to it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be one. I'm not going to be a person that is always going to find my peace running a marathon. Good for you who love to do that.
I'm with you on that.
I,
I'm with
that's amazing. And looking, I think a lot of times too, we're always looking for what somebody else is doing, and it's great to learn and to find different ways. Um, and then for me, it's always like, it's simple. It's the simple things, and I think for everybody is finding those simple things that we can do every day. Even if
yes.
you're a marathon runner, I'm not going to run a marathon every day, but if I find my peace and my center sitting alongside a river, that's something that I can do pretty easily anytime, even if it's frozen over. Or even putting on the sound of water and closing my eyes for a moment and taking myself to that space. The
Yes.
simple things.
Connect to the essence, right?
Yes.
It's the um connect to the essence, and you talk about the inner work versus the outer environment versus the inner environment, and that's that's one of those keys to the universe. It's that our inner transformation creates outer transformation. And that might sound hokey. However, it just our mind is so powerful. And that's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole nother podcast.
The power
Well,
of the mind, right? And what we perceive. So coming back to center of what we can control in those everyday ways is how, I mean, how personally transformational this journey has been, where I align my personal and my professional life has felt amazing. And I know that you've found that light and lightness from that as well. But it's that creating a lifestyle out of it, where it's
yeah,
these everyday practices where I don't need to wait until the end of the day. It's just, what about if it's a breath, if it's
yeah,
a quick check-in, if it's finding our feet, these simple everyday ways just to continue to resource for ourselves while we're giving to others.
yes, yes, yes. Ah, yes, we could go on. We could go on forever. But I want to know before, kind of as we start to wrap this up, as you said, like this is something that you are blessed to be able to do, to offer as a service, is also something that you've been blessed to be on the journey and learning from your own experiences and what works for you. So just tell me, as a business owner, as someone who's really taking on this work, what is it that you do to help center yourself, to help keep yourself in that space?
What a great question. I want to start with the first thing I say in the morning. Um, when my eyes blink open and I realize that I have awoken to another day, thank you.
Yes.
I say good morning to
Mm,
myself, to my whole self. That's my soul part. That's my mind. I say good morning. Um, and it's just kind of like this recognition of we made it. Like this is happening. I've transitioned from the unconscious to the subconscious to the conscious again. Here we are. Instead of reaching for my phone
mm,
or letting any number of thoughts that could easily circumvent and steal my energy in that direction, I start it with a simple good morning. Um, and then bring it back to this powerful practice of the truth statement. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, and really let the breath cycle through old neurochemicals, right? The melatonin from the evening converts to serotonin during the day, our wakefulness and how we feel. And so I let the breath do its thing. Not long, because if I do, I'll go back to sleep.
right.
It's all intentionally, and that's happened. But that it's really energizing, and I have had a journey with chronic pain as well, and so let's kind of check in and move a little bit, and maybe bring a right knee in and left knee, and just take that slow, slow awakening, even if it's a shorter period, just taking that time to start the morning. And when I talk about a shorter period of time, I'm talking like a minute,
Yeah.
a minute,
Yeah.
2 minutes, and at the most. And so, and that's just what I do each morning. And I would say that that's my ritual. I'd say that's my ritual. Now I have a routine, but I like flexibility and fluidity in
Mhm.
the routine. I also have a 7-year-old daughter, so routines go out the window pretty quickly when um, it's
Yeah.
easy. So, but I always come back to these nervous system practices, and they're back here behind me of orienting my body, greeting my feet, working with my feet, breath, saying good morning to my brain, or just noticing how I'm thinking. And then I really contact my boundary of waking up my whole self to remember that I have a vehicle. We call it a body. And
Yeah.
so, and just to wake it up. And this is the essence of the foundation of the ABCs of presence, that I'll do short variations of this throughout the day. And short variations, I mean like 5 to 10 seconds throughout the day. And that keeps my stress level from going to the end of the day, couch potato, to um, rhythmic, just rolling, rolling with the waves.
Yeah. Yeah. I have found that I've learned so much from you. And I have found
Hey,
that too, that just that slow, there's something about that slow awakening. And I can tell that um the days where I have that slow awakening and I go into whatever is next for the morning. Same thing. I like the routine, but I like the flexibility depending where I'm at or what I'm doing.
it's
But
real, right? That's real.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's not so
also
not so rigid. And I think
not so
that's what,
rigid.
yes,
Not so
can't be so
rigid.
rigid. Otherwise it becomes another thing. And then we just, at some point, it just falls off again.
But the longer that I can stay away from my phone in the morning, the better my day is going to go.
Yeah, I know.
And I just think that we approach not only our lives, but our relationships. And I think hard conversations, I think we approach them in a different way when we've started our morning from that space of self. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a recent example where that just your day was
Yeah.
oriented in a way that you appreciated rather than being swept away by it?
Yeah, I used to just, I mean, I not a huge morning person, so I used to have it planned out by the minute, right? Like I could roll out of bed and do this and this and this and be on the road and be at work by this time,
Yeah.
right? So there was no, it was just jump out of bed and go. I also, as social media has become more and more, I've caught myself probably in the last couple of months just really being following things and digging into things and then just feeling my energy and my body shift into a space that I know is not healthy
Mm.
or comfortable. Um, and just the other day, what do you mean just yesterday? I mean, it's finally it's cooling off here. It's fall. I love fall, but it's also really buggy. And so it's kind of this balance of when you want to spend where you want to spend your time. But I love when it's nice out to get out of bed, make my coffee or my you know breakfast shake, whatever it is, then take my journal I have a prayer book that I read from in the morning, and just going out and sitting on my patio and just taking that time to read and to journal and to just drink my coffee. Sometimes just even sitting and just listening and being there. Um, and I always take my phone with me because I put on meditation music, but it was just like
Hmm.
um there's always that temptation then to start looking at something else. And I've been out there where it's like I did it kind of halfway, but then I got on my phone and then it was just like, oh yeah, that didn't feel good, depending on a day where, that I leave my phone and go out and just be, and I just come back in and it doesn't take any more time. Actually, it probably takes less time.
Probably less, right? Yeah, because it doesn't take much to end up in
The
an
rabbit
app that
hole.
doesn't really help. Yes. So
But
having a little boundary separation just to be really present with your devotion, with your coffee and nature, and getting the sunshine is so good for our brain.
yeah,
Brain
just feeling
health.
the fresh air move in and out of your lungs.
Mhm.
And again, like I think then when work comes or when something comes up and there's a email that comes through that is like, surprising or whatever, I just feel like I handle it more with grace and think about it, and it's just not a response, but is something that, I ask myself more questions like, where would this be coming from? Or maybe, maybe this isn't about me.
Right? Which we find out is 100% true.
People are not just walking around thinking about me all day, and that's hard to believe, but
Dun, 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 right? But to center ourselves in this helpful way, rather than to center ourselves in someone else's universe, but to center ourselves in our universe and really to show love, show care. It is profoundly impactful of just what you get back to then ride the waves of uncertainty, doubt, or surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, for having this conversation with me. It's been a long time coming. And I look forward to our very next time that we're going to be in person, which whatever, we'll find some time to connect and just be together in conversation. So thank you for taking the time to be on here today.
And it's always my pleasure to chat with you in this way or any other way. And I just love that we showed up with vibing in this
I
aquamarine,
know.
clear, bright, energetic color. So that's fun too. I love those synchronicities.
Yes, yes, I do too. Awesome. All right. Until next time.